pretty sure we've got whoever's going to be on the webinar. So let's get stuck into it. So a big welcome first and foremost to everybody. This is Outsourcing Made Simple, 5 steps to less stress, more time and greater profits. Just thought I'd just kick off just with an introduction. Obviously, there's a lot of people on this webinar that know myself and know Jody and familiar with the story of Staffberry and how it came about. But I just want to give you a little bit of introduction both on myself for those that I've never met and the company itself. So personally, I've been in business for 10 years, had several businesses, had Staffberry is actually the 5th startup of mine. And for the last 6 of those 10 years, I've been coaching in the small business space, mostly working in the sales and marketing section. And that's real, and I share that with you because that's how Staffberry came about, inside of my commitment to contributing and making a difference to small business owners, and really for the need that I saw out there in the marketplace. As I'm going to explain throughout the webinar, with the key needs of being busy, days rolling into days, not producing the results they're committed to producing, and really how outsourcing has impacted my life and our business and businesses that I run, and in turn saw that as an opportunity to make that available to not only our clients here at the National College of Business, but also to the greater business community. So just from that impact of the 2 virtual assistants that we've been working with, and of course now that a lot of our clients are working closely with assistants, and the difference that makes to impacting small businesses. So that's that's the why, I suppose. And ultimately, Staffberry is an offshore recruitment service, as you can see there on the screen. Simply put, we match highly trained and qualified staff from overseas, primarily Manila in the Philippines, and there's reasons for that, just due to the time zone and their work ethic. So we match highly qualified and trained staff from overseas with small to medium-sized companies in Australia. I believe, and we believe as a company, that small business owners and business owners in general should have access to the resources that increase productivity and profitability in the business. As I shared with you before, the reason why we started it. And fundamentally, the intention is to have you guys focus on what I call revenue producing activities or results producing activities. You would have seen that in the email that got sent out to you that you registered via. Allowing business owners to focus on those things that produce the results, rather than getting caught up in the whirlwind or the hustle and bustle of the day-to-day of running business. Okay, so that's just a little bit about us, and Jody will share a little bit of background on himself when it's his time to share. And that's really the fundamental, the intention behind it is for us to be able to allow business owners to focus on, what's important. All right. So, top 5 challenges faced by small business owners. As I shared before, having worked with, been in the coaching space for a little over 6 years. In that time, worked with in the vicinity of 1,000 business owners and their staff. And there's some common trends, regardless of industry, regardless of experience in business. And there's common trends or common challenges that are faced by business owners. And here are the top 5, and maybe you can relate to some of these. Cash flow. Cash flow is a challenge. Being able to manage, the day-to-day cash of the business. So, and in particular around, we're talking about managing staff or team players, as we call them here at the National College of Business. So managing staff and knowing when to take on that next team player, and in turn, when can you afford it? When's the right time, etc., etc. So, cash flow is one of the major challenges. Time management. As we can probably all relate, time management is one of those conversations which you could lead a whole program on, and I have a particular stance on time management. See, we're all given a specific, we're all given 24 hours in a day, and I'm a believer that it's not time management, it's more priority management that has us not produce results. And again, for the difference, what I've seen in the difference between business owners that produce extraordinary results and those that produce average to mediocre results are the ones that know what their priorities are and spend the majority of their time working on those priorities. Just some interesting statistics around that. And again, I'm sure that you'll relate, is that the data shows that 76% of all small business owners fill at least 3 to 6 roles within a business, and 45% fill more than 5 roles. Now, roles include, marketing, sales, operations manager, sometimes account managers, the bookkeeper, the jack of all trades, master of none kind of conversation. And not to mention for those that have got families. So, you manage all of that. And then on top of that, you're either a mum or a dad. So, life gets pretty busy. Okay. One of the major challenges we face with, or I see business owners facing on a regular basis which stops them from producing the results they're committed to producing. Getting and keeping the right customers. We find attracting the right types of clients and then keeping and maintaining those right types of clients. This again ties in with focusing on the priorities, or focusing on those things that are important. One of the things I see a lot is, you might be able to attract those right types of clients, but just due to the immense workload that you have and the things that you do on a day-to-day basis, being able to attend to their needs at a 5-star level, or being able to do the extra mile tasks that you probably should be doing, but you're not because you're just caught up in the whirlwind. Keeping and getting and keeping or maintaining customers. And number 4, putting together the right team. So actually attracting and finding the right team players, and then of course maintaining them. And as Jim Collins says in his book, Good to Great, getting the right people on the bus, and then once you've got the right people on the bus, making sure they're in the right seats. And number 5 is marketing. There's that much out there when it comes to marketing and, what's available to small business owners. But sometimes it's like, where do I start? And really that ties in again with time management, or managing your priorities around, taking that time out to stop and think, what's going to be the most effective form of marketing? How are we going to, produce a marketing plan? Or even just taking the time out to think about what's sufficient and what's going to be effective. So, they're the top 5 challenges we've faced. Now, we all know that these are just challenges. They're not a death sentence. And there is a solution, or there are solutions. And I'm not saying that outsourcing is the be-all and end-all, but it's something that's going to facilitate or alleviate some of those challenges, which is what you'll see by the end of the presentation anyway. That's the top 5 challenges. So what is outsourcing? Some of you might be in various places. Some of you may have experienced outsourcing tasks previously. Some of you may have used websites like Odesk or Elance or Freelancer. I think Odesk has changed its name now to, Jody, what's the name of Odesk these days? It's not called Odesk anymore. Anyway, irrelevant. It's changed its name. So you would have seen Upwork. That's what it is. I knew it was a change of name. So some of you may have experienced the basic level of outsourcing, which is great. And also too, you may have experienced different levels of results. So that's what I see is that people, might have had a bit of a dabble in it. They might have, Fiverr is another website that's, become quite popular when it comes to outsourcing certain tasks. So you might be in various spaces where you're listening from. So what is outsourcing? Fundamentally, outsourcing is just the practice of delegating certain tasks to an external team member or staff member, rather than trying to manage it in-house. For example, you might be outsourcing, and by the way, outsourcing doesn't necessarily mean overseas or offshoring as well. So you might be outsourcing your bookkeeping to your bookkeeper who's based in Australia. You're outsourcing your SEO, rather than trying to learn it yourself. You find a suitable person in Australia or overseas to manage that process. You might be outsourcing some of your marketing processes or marketing campaigns. So it's as simple as that. Now, today I'm fundamentally talking about outsourcing overseas as opposed to outsourcing in Australia. And I mentioned Manila and the Philippines, primarily from just a cost perspective, but also as I'm going to show how to from an effectiveness perspective too. There's some cultural advantages with offshoring to a country like the Philippines, yeah, it has benefits for small business owners in Australia. So that's what I'm primarily talking about. Was what are the tasks specifically? I just saw there. Thank you, Julie. Put up their Upwork as well. She was all over it. Thank you. That's really one of the key questions that gets asked is what are the tasks that I can outsource? How do I get it off my plate? And then how do I do it effectively? Like how do I do it so it's safe, it's secure, I don't get I don't get bitten. And that's what I'm out to answer in this webinar. Now, I'll move on to the next section. So, what are the benefits of outsourcing? Well, number one, as I said before, it allows you to focus on your core business. And I'm on a mission at the moment. I'm on a mission. Now, for those that don't know, I know I've mentioned the National College of Business before. I'm the managing director of the National College of Business on the Gold Coast, and I lead most of the programs here. And in those coaching programs, I'm on this mission at the moment to have business owners purely focus on, especially given it's a brand new financial year, to make this year the year of focusing on the results producing activities. Like being able to focus on the core business, the one thing that's going to have you produce the results, rather than just focusing on the results. Because it's just focusing purely on the results is like driving your car and looking in the rear vision mirror, as the old analogy goes. So focusing on the results producing activities. Now, if you're in the room and we had more time, what I would ask you to do, and maybe this is something that you guys can write down and do in your own time, but what I'd ask you to do is write down what are those activities, those results producing activities that when you take them, the business moves forward or it produces results. Another way of putting it could be, what we call your lead measures or your lead actions. What are those actions that you take that when you take them consistently has you produce results? Now, an example of that might be making new contacts, or it could be, networking at new events. If your key focus for 2015, 2016 financial year was around expanding and growing the business, one of your results producing activities would be focused on, or maybe your key focus for your results producing activities would be around, increasing revenue. So you might look at, well, what are the results producing activities that can increase revenue? What are the things that I know to do, but don't necessarily do because I'm just that busy? That has you produce results. So maybe it's attending, networking events. Maybe it's, writing a blog post. Maybe it's, following up with clients. Maybe it's FaceTime. We work with a lot of tradies or in the construction space, and it doesn't have to be in the construction space, but FaceTime or follow up with high touch points with, with important clients makes a difference. So those things that that will have you produce results. That's the number one benefit. Increasing efficiencies, obviously, without you having to double handle or manage the smaller things in your business, it allows you to focus on it and keep momentum and increase efficiencies within the business. Reduction of labor costs. It might be that you're at this stage in business where you're looking to take on an admin assistant in-house, or it's just need to take it to the next level when it comes to, there's just too much work for you to handle. Outsourcing, especially from an offshore perspective, has a major impact. Will have a significant impact anyway on your expenses and on your wage bills. Level playing field is the next benefit. Now, what I mean by that is as you might get, and for those that know me, they will know this, but I am passionate about having small to medium-sized business owners succeed and win. And in particular, having them or giving them the opportunity to have the same resources that bigger businesses have available to them. Now, if you think about our offshoring or outsourcing, this has been happening for probably more than a decade. with bigger companies. Your major banks, your electrical companies, your phone companies have been offshoring, whether it's admin tasks or customer service tasks, for over a decade. Now, I want to make that available to small business owners as well, that to have that same resource available. So really, outsourcing allows you to, as I said, really level the playing field and give you the opportunity to have a business that produces exponential results, without having to have the capital or as much capital behind you to do that. Reduces risks, and fundamentally reducing risk by spreading out the workload within your business. And one of the risk factors of a small business is having one or two key people in your business that knows everything. And from a risk management perspective, if your business is dependent on one or two key people to run the majority of the business, what happens if something was to happen to them? They get poached by a competitor, or they decide to. I used to say go and work in the mines, but that's not so much a challenge these days. But they decide to move on and change industries. Being able to spread out that workload, spread out that responsibility, but do it in a cost-effective way will in turn reduce the risk from there. All right. So if there's if there's any questions that have come up from out of that, I'll just give you 30 seconds to digest and take some notes. If there's any questions, just pop them in the questions section. No, all good. Okay, cool. So let's keep going. So let's move on to the do's and don'ts of hiring an offshore assistant, because again, working with the number of business owners that I work with, I do hear some horror stories, and I don't want those horror stories to detract from the benefits of it. So here are some do's and don'ts, some things just to watch out for when you're looking at hiring an offshore assistant, or even just outsourcing in general. Mostly I want to give you the opportunity to do it right. Okay. So the do's. Number one, do the critical thinking about what you're looking for. Now, as I share with my clients, it's hiring an offshore assistant is no different to hiring. I mean, there's obviously differences, but you want to relate to it like you're hiring somebody here in Australia. And doing the critical thinking means, what's the role specifically that I want this person to fill? Now, if you are hiring somebody on a $50,000 or $60,000, $70,000, $100,000 salary package here in Australia, chances are you're going to sit down and you're going to look at, okay, well, what's the position itself? What's the position description? Where does it fit inside my business? Where does that position fit? Do I have the cash or the cash flow to be able to maintain that position? What do I need them to do? What's their intention? And what are the tasks specifically? So number one do is to actually sit down, stop for a second, think about your objectives, think about what you want to accomplish. And July, or the first week of July, is a great time to do this because it's a brand new financial year. And hopefully I'm speaking to people that have gone and set up their key objectives, especially those people that I've coached or am currently coaching. I'm sure you've all got your key objectives set out for the next, or for this upcoming financial year. But think about it and go, what position or what role in my business could somebody fill from an offshore position? And what do I need? What would make the biggest impact on producing that result? Because ultimately, that's what it's all about. And you might not be, might not be 100% sure as to whether that task or those tasks can be offshored or outsourced. In which case, ask the question. But do the critical thinking about what's going to make the biggest impact on the business. That's number one. Rather than just rushing into it, or rather than just delegating miscellaneous tasks, individual tasks sporadically, without actually thinking about what's the priority. And where do I need to start focusing? Where do I need to start focusing on? Number two do's is communication. Communication. Now, if you are going back to our analogy of hiring somebody here in Australia, you wouldn't hire them and then on their first day speak to them for 30 minutes of the 8 hours of their day. And you wouldn't just leave them by themselves for the entire first week or check in with them sporadically. You would train them, you would work with them, and your lines of communication would be open. So, when looking at offshoring or outsourcing your tasks, make sure that you're specifically looking at or setting up, clear lines of communication. And Jody's going to talk to you more about that from a technical perspective. But whether it's Skype or GoToMeeting or whatever it might be, but just making sure that you're in full communication around that. Okay, and there's a clear line of communication available. Number 3 is be realistic. Be realistic. So realistic in your outcomes and expectations. If you were to hire someone, for those of you that are on the call or on the webinar that have got staff or team, as we call it here, so you've got team members or you've got staff, you know that training is required, and they're not going to be up to speed in the first day, 2 days, week, possibly even a month, depending on how technical the role is. So be realistic in your expectations, and be realistic in your outcome. This is not a a magic silver bullet, as they say. Be realistic in what you expect them to do, the tasks and the timeframes in which you expect them to complete. Okay. Yeah. Get over yourself. Number 4, and there's a few of you I'm sure I'm speaking directly to. You're not the only person in the world or in the business that can do it right. And as I shared before, we've got 2 assistants here at the National College of Business, and obviously and in Staffberry as well. And those guys, the amount of tasks that they complete on a weekly basis, and way better than I could complete them. Admin tasks, whether it's collating spreadsheets, collating data, whether it's, by the way, DJ, who's our recruitment consultant for Staffberry, and also my personal assistant or personal virtual assistant. She created this PowerPoint. Now, I don't really have a creative bone in my body, but if you notice the PowerPoint, it's quite a good quality PowerPoint presentation, and she created this based off of a very simple brief. So. You're not the only person that can do this. So for some of you, and maybe you're in a situation where you've never hired anyone before, maybe offshoring or outsourcing a task and hiring an offshore assistant is going to be the first time you've employed somebody. So know that you can delegate a task and you don't have to be, and then that people can actually do it better than you. And just for those that have never experienced working with offshore staff, a lot of these assistants or guys and girls actually have real world qualifications and quite intensive qualifications. And we placed a lady the other day who had an MBA from one of the Philippines' leading business schools, and it was that position, I think from memory, was around $330 a week full time for a 40-hour week. Now this person's got an MBA, which is internationally recognised from the university that she went to. So, they're going to potentially bring to the table, and if you hire right, we'll definitely bring to the table skill sets that will exceed yours potentially in certain areas. Number 5 is be safe. Be safe. We're in Australia. We're trusting. Although it's kind of a I wouldn't say bipolar nation, but we've got a healthy skepticism and a healthy cynicism. But at the same time, we've also got this this trustworthy nature. So I'm not saying that you need to go into these relationships like they're going to do the dirty, but at the same time, take necessary precautions when it comes to intellectual property and security of your materials. And Jody's going to talk more about that when it comes to from an IT perspective. But just, don't, as I said, don't be overly skeptical and go into a relationship with an offshore assistant like, empty your bank account. But at the same time, don't be naive to the fact that, this is somebody overseas and you don't know them from a bar of soap. All right, so the don'ts. Don't be cheap. Don't be stingy. As a rule, as a principle, something that I follow that works for me is invest in the best. And when I say don't be cheap, and when it comes to offshoring, it's the difference between maybe $5 an hour and $7 an hour. But that $2 an hour will make a massive difference in their skill set and their experience. So invest in the best and pay for that person that's a little bit better qualified. Don't micromanage, and this really ties in with get over yourself. If you've got a task there set specifically, you might, obviously, I don't want you to abdicate certain tasks. Make sure you train them up and work with them to no different to as if you would with somebody in Australia or in the next office. So you make sure you train them up, but at the same time, don't micromanage, because especially from a cultural perspective in the Philippines, the more you micromanage, the less likely they will be to make independent decisions, which means the more you will have to micromanage in the future. It's kind of this, and I'm sure Jody will verify that, given that he's got most of his team offshore. The more you micromanage, the more you'll need to, and the less creative they'll be, and the less forthcoming or proactive they'll be with ideas. So, train, implement, create the systems, but at the same time, then let them go and do their thing. Don't chop and change. And this really comes back to what I said before about clearly defining the role. But, business owners, you've got a lot going on in your head. There's 1,000 things happening. We are known to, coming up with new, especially depending on your personality style. For those that are familiar with, your disc profiling, for those that are I style personalities, to chop and change ideas and come up with new ideas. No different again to anyone in Australia, no staff member in Australia. Come up with an idea, give them some tasks, allow them to fulfill the tasks rather than bouncing them from one thing to the next. Otherwise, you just won't produce the results you're committed to. Don't underestimate the time involved. This is, allocate realistic deadlines and targets. It's not a silver bullet, but at the same time, have high expectations, but then also don't underestimate the time involved to produce or complete certain tasks. So, for example, if you're having somebody collate a list. Maybe it's a mailing list. Maybe you're out there. One of your objectives for this financial year is to expand the business, grow the business, and part of that expansion is by doing some direct mail or coming in contact with new business owners. Maybe you've set the task of collating a quality or a list building task. You might want every restaurant in Brisbane. I want to know, the owner of every restaurant in Brisbane. So if you can collate the list of that, set some realistic deadlines, but don't underestimate the fact that it's quality over quantity, and just be realistic around that. All right, cool. So are there any questions? Any questions around that? Now I know that I'm rushing, or it might occur like we're belting through this. This presentation is normally a 90-minute presentation with questions at the end. So, given it's a webinar, we like to condense it into an hour. So we find people's attention spans are really only an hour when it comes to looking at a computer screen, at the very most. So some good news is we are recording it. This webinar is being recorded. So if you would like a copy of the recording so you can go back and take some notes, or if there's anything you've missed, feel free to do that. So I've got a question here from Julie. It says, what if you're offshoring stuff like web design, etc., and you know nothing about that? That's a really good question. That's one of those challenging factors of really looking at, well, what is it specifically that you're going to be offshoring? And maybe Jody's probably the person to answer that question, given that Jody, although he's come from Click Insights, also runs a web development company from and the team's based in the Philippines. So Jody, you want to answer that one?
Yeah. So the question is outsourcing your web design. If that's your business, is making websites, then and you don't know anything about, if it's just a one-off project, it's good to deal probably with somebody local that's got the experience in it, rather than going direct offshore. We found previously that a lot of clients that go direct tend to have not the best experience. If you're looking at putting somebody on to manage your website from start to finish, then that's the same process, going through the recruitment, getting somebody that knows the project management side of building a website as well. So it's not just, here you go, chuck them in and build the website, but they can take it from start to finish as a whole project and then potentially manage it for you. So that's probably more of the way to do that in regards to a website. Does that sort of answer that question?
Yeah, I think so. And obviously I can't see Julie's face. But yes, thanks. She says, yeah, thanks. Awesome, Julie. Cool. So, yeah, I know I agree with Jody. I am a fan of skilled labor or skilled tasks being managed here, especially delegating. And that's probably the same for bookkeeping, web. Probably bookkeeping, web are the two that I would suggest that people, business owners, focus on or look at. Getting that done here in Australia. Having said that, if you're a bookkeeping company, like Jody said, or a web development agency, and you're looking to hire a team of developers, Julie says yes, I am. So Julie, if you were looking at hiring a team of bookkeepers overseas to build the bookkeeping agency or bookkeeping firm, which I'm pretty sure I know you're not doing or you're not interested in doing, given your new focus, but that would be where you'd be looking at from a school perspective. All right, cool. So let's move on. If there's no other questions. Okay, great. So I'm going to move on to 17 day-to-day tasks. This is really, again, one of the key questions. It's like, I love the idea of outsourcing. I like the concept. I've got friends that do it, or I know business owners that do it, but what? Like, what do we give them? Staff primarily focuses on finding admin assistants, so people that focus on the administrative side of things, as opposed to the technical componentry. So I've got 17 day-to-day administrative style tasks that can be delegated offshore. So number one is email organization and management. So that I think for the most part you guys registered through an email that got sent through one of the National College of Business lists or my Sunbelt sales training list. That email was actually collated offshore by DJ, my assistant, and being able to set up whether it's newsletters, email newsletters, or email marketing campaigns, or even just ensuring that the integrity of the lists themselves are up to date. That's a task that can impact the effectiveness of any of your email campaigns, or even just your emails in general, and then managing the process. So, for example, for those of you that might have an opt-in newsletter, where someone's come onto the website and they've opted in to request some information, but they've put Frank with a capital with a lowercase f. They're going through and making sure that all the names have got capitals. So if you do personalize your communications, that Frank with a lowercase f is not being offensive when they get that. Making sure the phone numbers are up to date, etc. Just managing the day-to-day email communications. Could also be filtering your office emails. So ensuring that they delete the spam emails and forward you the ones that are important. Online research and data entry. This could be things like competitor analysis, customer analysis. It could be, and data entry might be collating contacts into a call list or an Excel spreadsheet or directly into your CRM. And online research might be, I'm looking to take on a new product line, or I'm looking to see what trends are out there in the marketplace. Doing those things that you probably should be doing as an entrepreneur or as a business owner that's expanding, but you just don't have the time for. Updating and cleaning the CRM. Interesting story, number 3. That was the original reason how I started in offshoring tasks. I hired DJ. Specifically, her task was when I acquired the National College of Business. We've got a big database, and salespeople, they're not necessarily the best at maintaining clean data. Address in the wrong sections, no postcodes. If anyone that's trying to do a mail merge or an email campaign and the data's not put in correctly, it's a nightmare. And sometimes it's prohibitive of actually doing that marketing action. So we originally hired DJ just to clean up the database. And rather than me sitting there and going through 3,000 records or 2,000 records, or even my Australian team here doing that, when they could be focused on the results producing activities, just to have her go through and make sure that the addresses are in the right section, making sure the data's up to date, making sure their phone numbers are current from their websites, making sure the contact people are the right contact people. Those to keep the the CRM data. And by the way, CRM stands for Customer Relationship Management, which is a tool to maintain your data. So basic things like that. Basic bookkeeping. Now, again, Julie, I'm not detracting from Australian bookkeeping, but things like, you might have basic reconciliation. where you're getting payments coming in on a regular basis, on a daily basis. Maybe you've got a business that's got, direct debit setups or pay by the month subscriptions, and rather than having you go through and reconcile to their invoices, they can reconcile specifically. They can do that kind of basic data entry. It might, and following on from that, it might also be just sending client invoices and following up payments. So, a system that we've got here is that when a client is made, or we call them friends at the college, so when a friend's made or a client's made, rather than the salesperson then having to go and generate a receipt or an invoice, he makes the request to his virtual assistant, and the invoice is generated. It's emailed with a thank you letter, and all the details are updated in the CRM. So that there might save our business managers half an hour. Now, that half an hour in turn could be then focused on, booking another appointment, or talking to a new client, or following up, or doing the things that are producing results. And following up payments could be something as simple as, overdue accounts. And if you want, we actually spoke to a gentleman yesterday who's taking on an assistant specifically for that. He's got a finance company, and following up those arrears and following up those overdue payments is something that he wants to offshore, because it's far more cost effective, and he finds that they're more diligent. Social media management, things like your Facebook posts. I know a common challenge with a lot of people is, I'd love to do more social media, but I just don't know what to post, or I don't have the time to post. They can take care of that. Creating reports, meeting minutes, and presentations. So it might be that you, in a new client meeting, you've taken some notes. Common practice, you might take a photo on your phone, shoot it over, email it to your assistant. They can type it up. It could be, reporting. One of the habits from a financial reporting perspective, one of my habits here, and those that I coach and work with will know this, but by the 7th of every month, there's a particular financial report or financial control report that needs to be produced. And so my assistants will work with the entire team to gather the information, whether it's the sales team, the marketing team, the operations team, bring all that information together and collate that data. Now, it's more cost effective and more focused. And then presentations, which is what we talked about with this webinar. Receptionist duties, you can have your telephones redirected, and quite easily, and again, this is something that you can talk to Jody about, and set up with a 5-6 number or an 07 number, 38 number, or wherever you are in Australia. Have a local number, and have that be redirected, for the cost of not much over a local call, so they can be answering the calls there. Transcribing audios, so you might be driving your car. Obviously, you've got Bluetooth in your car. You're driving your car because you wouldn't be touching your phone whilst you're driving, but you might have an idea or some concepts or an email that wants to be sent, and you could record it on your smartphone, email it off, and that could be transcribed into an email or a letter. Something save you, rather than you having to get to your destination, stop, think about what it was that you were thinking about whilst you were driving, and you might forget half of it or whatever it might be. So just transcribing audios and notes. Travel planning. If you do much travel with your business, weekly website updates. So this could be new product updates. It could even be organising blog posts. It could be just organising, uploading photos and images and things like that just get pushed to one side due to the day-to-day busyness of business. Order processing. You might be, that's pretty self-explanatory. Doesn't need any explanation around that. Collect and collate prospecting and marketing lists, which I've talked about before. Calendar management with cloud-based calendars, whether it's Google Calendars or even Outlook or Mac, the Mac version. I should know that, given that I'm a Mac man. But being able to manage appointments and calendars and setting that, allocating the task aside. Managing e-commerce sites. So again, that kind of ties in with processing orders, updating products, we've got a client here that does gift baskets, and that would be a great opportunity for her to, if you can imagine the time it takes for her to take, once she takes a photo, obviously they can't take photos if the product's in Australia and they're in the Philippines, but if she takes a photo as a standard explanation of each of the products, they can take the time to upload the photo, make sure the content's right, make sure it's uploaded. Each of those tasks saves time. Project management and training tasks. So you might find somebody, an assistant that has experience in project management. So it might be in various levels. So it could be web based. It could be in the interest of time, we'll move on. And then other personal errands such as purchasing gifts online, etc., etc., etc. So truckloads of stuff. Actually, just in the interest of time, I'll just quickly go through that. Where it's 11:42. So 3 common mistakes when hiring assistant. Again, if you've got any questions, shoot them out. 3 common mistakes when hiring assistant. Number 1, expecting a plug-and-play solution. These guys and girls will be highly trained when you hire them. Well, if you hire the right ones, obviously, and you look for the certain skill sets, but at the same time, there is certain things, and as I work with my coaching clients on, there'll be the way that you do it specifically. So don't expect them to come in like any staff member and know the lay of the land and how you want things done. So make sure you invest the time to train them and don't expect a plug-and-play. Don't aim for another common mistake is aiming for a one-stop shop. Be very specific in the skill sets you want, as opposed to the universal man or universal woman, and wanting them to do website updates and then telemarketing and then blogging and social media management, and you might find one, as you might find somebody here that can do all of that, but you will have to invest the extra, and it might take a lot longer to find that universal person. But the intention here is, or the message here is, focus on the tasks and the most important tasks rather than looking for a one-stop shop. And then forgetting that even with outsourcing, you get what you pay for, which is what we spoke about before, investing in the best. Okay. Cool. So I'm going to hand it over to Jody Brown, from the CEO of Click Insights, and he can talk you through some of the keys when it comes to the tech perspective. So let me just change it over. Cool. So Jody, you should be on.
Yep, it's just coming through now.
And while he's doing that, if you've got any questions, guys, we probably won't have time to answer them before Jody starts, but at the end. So just feel free to write them down or write them in the questions section there, and happy to answer them at the end.
Yeah, cool. How's that, Simon? We've switched screens now. Can you see everything looking good?
Yeah, looking good, bud.
Okay, awesome. I can't actually see the chat question, so if any do come through, Simon, if you just want to copy it into my chat window, it would be great. But otherwise, we can do a couple at the end.
Will do.
Cool, awesome. All right, thanks, guys. So, my name's Jody. I run Click Insights, which is an IT consulting business, and I've also got Buzzword with another couple of guys, which is web development. Just a little bit of a background on me. I've been involved in offshoring and outsourcing now probably the last 6 or 7 years. I've had 5 years working with a virtual assistant that's based in Manila, and probably 4 of those years we're probably doing it the wrong way, and we just sort of, a lot of those don'ts that Simon talked about, we've done pretty much all those don'ts. We've also got a couple of years managing a team in Manila with Buzzword. We've got a team of 4 web developers and also an SEO team, and just various projects, probably 30 or 40 projects over the years, just doing one-offs with offshore staff. So a lot of learning in that, and pretty much our whole business model for our web development is all offshore. We do the sales and strategy here and all the implementation over there. So this morning I'm just going to run through just pretty much a high-level overview of some of the tools that we use to connect up when you're dealing with your offshore team. So just around communication, data sharing, task setting, and monitoring of your team and security. So just the basics on how to communicate. Now, look, there's various tools out there. We've gone through many different tools over the years and refined it down to a few that work for us. Doesn't necessarily mean it worked for you, but there's lots of options out there. So Skype is probably our main communication tool. We use that for just the instant messaging between the team, and it's great just for the real-time conversation. Most of you have probably used Skype. You can have video or no video, just audio, or just simple typing chat. You can also have groups. So I'm just going to slide my Skype across here. You can see on the left we've got Team Buzzword, and in there we've got most of our team in there online. When a message gets posted, everybody sees it, and we've broken that down. We've got just web developers, so we can chat straight with them. So it's really flexible. You can have private chats with 1 or 2 staff, or as many as you want, and it just makes it really easy to communicate in real time. So that's more your instant messaging type stuff there. Email is probably one of the most important communication tools, and you want the ability to be able to see the employee's email if you need to, for them to be able to see yours if they're doing sorting of your email, monitoring as it comes in, and organising it into different areas. So there's a couple of ways of doing that. The 2 most popular are Google Apps and Office 365, and they both come with shared calendars, the ability to easily manage mailboxes and delegate mailboxes, so you can have your offshore team, looking at your email, and it's the same as you looking at yours. So if they delete, it deletes out of yours, and it just keeps it clean and simple. Same with the calendars. They can monitor your calendar. They can add jobs, tasks in there as well. And then same with the data storage. So both of these, both Office 365 and Google Apps, come with the ability to host data as well, which just makes it easier, especially with offshore, moving data around the place. It just takes the level of complexity out that there used to be. You don't need servers and things like that anymore. There are some instances where you do, but primarily now, cloud-based. You can be cloud-based everything, which is just really great. Moving on to how to share data. Again, there's so many different ways of sharing. A couple of the most popular, Google Drive and Dropbox, which I'm sure a lot of people have had experience with already. With both of these, you can give the ability to share off certain folders. You can make them secure. You can take away the privilege. So if you've got an offshore staff member, here's a folder with certain data in there, you can then revoke that access at any time, and they then don't have access to it anymore. Like I said, it eliminates the need to have a server in place, and you can just have all individual folders for different parts of your business depending, and they've got easy access to that. Again, it's all cloud-based, so it just means that, yeah, it just keeps it simple, and that's the whole offshoring thing. The whole idea behind it is to keep it simple so you can focus on your business and what you need to do rather than technology and the hassles that go around that as well. So task setting. So this is those 17 tasks that Simon was mentioning. We use a program on again a cloud-based program called Trello for our task setting. So we've used many. I think we've gone through probably 4 or 5 different task-based online things to set tasks for all our team, and we just found that that Trello has been the easiest for us. And again, there's many versions. I'm just going to slide across our. So this is our Trello. They call them boards. You can set them up various different ways. For us, we've got our web development. So this on the left, we've got a heap of different boards for our different parts of the business. So SEO, web development, just for the directors of the company, email templates, etc. This is our web development board, and it's really easy. our team, so third Harold, Alden, they just look at it, see what's in their task for the day, can quickly go into it, open up the project, we can comment on each other, we can set deadlines, we can set checklists. It's really functional and it's really simple to use, and that's what we like about it. So it's just a good way of managing the team. Monitoring and security. This is probably one of the main concerns that a lot of people have when it comes to offshoring. How do I monitor what my team member's doing over there? It's not like an office where you can stand behind a guy's shoulder and quickly have a check to see what they're doing. And obviously they're in another country, so you need to know that they're going to be productive. And also around the security. So in terms of productivity management, we use Time Doctor, which is another, again, every system that we use for my web development company is all cloud-based. So, I've got the ability to jump onto any computer anywhere, wherever I am, and take full control of the business and see, a snapshot of who's doing what. So Time Doctor it's a really inexpensive monitoring tool. It works out around $5 per user per month. It takes screenshots. We can see what our team are working on. There's a central place for our entire staff. It's also got some cool features like monitoring core use of time. So, for example, if our team are spending too much time on Facebook, we can check the reports and it actually will generate and said, such and such user has spent 3 hours today on Facebook. So then we can go into reprimand mode and talk to them about that. It's also got daily reporting. So again, just a slide the screen. So this is just a snapshot of Time Doctor. I can see right now what our different guys are working on. There's a site in development here. I can see 2 or 3 things going and some SEO work going on. We can jump into screenshots and basically have a look straight away and see at any time we can pick any staff member, and every 6 seconds, and this is all, you can set this up however you like, it takes a screenshot of what they're working on. So
Jody, with that, you'd say you'd almost say that's more effective than monitoring your offshore staff than it is your Australian staff.
Yeah, exactly. It's really awesome. You can just get a really good snapshot. So you can see here, our team member here is working on a site Bruno Suits, and I can see that for the most part, he's looking pretty good. Pretty much everything he's doing for the last few hours has been solid on that site. So it's really good. If there was Facebook or online shopping or different things like that, then that's when you'd have to start having a chat and saying, hey, you're working on a bit of stuff that you probably shouldn't. So it's really good and extremely easy to set up. It's a little bit piece of software that gets installed, and that's it. The guys all know they're being monitored as well. It's not a secret. So that also helps a bit with the productivity side of things. The next is security as well. So there's, again, more cloud-based applications that do this. The one that we've had a lot of success with is Pulseway. It does things like if somebody plugs in a USB stick into the computer, it'll send us an email and say, the user's plugged in USB. So just things like that. It monitors for unusual activity on the computer as well. Things like viruses or, and even computer health. So we can see that, our team, they might be having a computer that's failing. Obviously, it's good to jump onto that before it becomes too much of a problem. We can let them know that, hey, you might want to get it checked out. To the extreme, we can actually activate the webcam on the user's laptops and things like that. If For an example, if we're trying to get a hold of a team member and we can't, we can flick their webcam on and actually see if they're sitting in front of it. That's not for everybody. Again, it depends on the level of security and what types of things that you're using. So if it's sensitive data, you might be more inclined to be really making sure you don't want any of that data to stray, which you can do with these sort of things to alert to the fact that these things might be happening and jump on them pretty quick. And another thing that we've had a lot of people that sort of have a concern is passwords and password management around security. And what we use is an online program called LastPass. And what that does is it stores usernames and passwords for everything. You can have it for banking, you can have it for websites, anything that requires a password. And it actually gives you the ability, so if you see here we've got shared buzzword client sites. Now these are all our clients. We can then share those off to our team members. They can log in and they don't actually ever get to see the password. So, we're confident that all of these sites, and if we ever have any rogue employees or we have to terminate an employee, they've got no access to any of our information. So the passwords, they don't actually get to see them. So they just click a button, they log in, and we have full control over that. So it takes away the risk around those sorts of things. So if you do have to let one of your team members go, you don't have to go and change all your passwords for all your different accounts. It's just there and it's done. So it's you can really put your mind at ease with all these sorts of things. So that's the end of my part of the presentation. If there's any questions, I think we're probably opening it up to some of those now.
Yes.
You can just hear Simon coming back on.
Yeah, great. Thanks. Thanks, Jody. That's awesome.
No worries. Are you able to take back over the screen?
I will.
I think you should have it back.
Yeah. Hang on a sec. 2 seconds. All right. How's that, Jody?
Yep. That's good now. Yeah, I can't see the chat questions. So
questions.
Just copy them in.
Yeah, no worries. All right, cool. So are there any, before we finish up, and I'm just going to explain just a little bit about how Staffberry works, is there any questions? Are there any questions about what Jody covered? Any questions around maybe tasks or usability or anything at all? I'm just going to throw it open for 30 seconds there for questions. No, it was great, Jed, and good, and it was great to see, just while people are maybe thinking of some questions, great to see real-world examples of how you use that technology there. We use Tahoe Meter, which is obviously very similar to Time Doctor, and that comes obviously part of the Staffberry the service, so just gives that extra peace of mind. And you've tried other software other than Trello, and you found that Trello was the most effective for task management?
Yeah, for us it was. We tried Asana, Workflow Max, Basecamp, but just for our level of what we wanted, Trello was the most simple and easiest. The level of detail, you don't need the advanced level of detail like some of those ones. So for us it was great. For others, it's not involved enough, and you need a different one. But it really comes down to what your needs are, and just sort of going from there and trying them out, really.
Yeah, great. All right, cool. Well, it doesn't seem we've got any questions here, so we might just move on just a little bit about how Staffberry works for those that might be interested in maybe talking to us in more detail about finding somebody offshore assistant. So we break the process down into 4 steps: define, interview, induct, and maintain, which makes us different to all other offshoring companies. So the defining part is either myself or one of the team here at Staffberry, one of the recruitment coordinators, will sit with you, or we'll do it over the phone and really define what your needs are specifically. So that would really be the next step there. So if you're even remotely considering looking at finding somebody, whether it's part-time or full-time, to manage some tasks, actually sitting down and doing an interview over the phone and really clearly defining what those tasks might be, and really creating a position description for your business specifically. From there, that recruitment consultant will create a list of candidates, and then we'll do some pre interviews on your behalf to shortlist the ideal 2 candidates to present to you, and then we'll facilitate a 3-way interview with yourself, the candidate, and the recruitment consultant. So basically, can facilitate. And what we find is our recruitment consultants are obviously based in the Philippines, and we find that works because it allows transparency. If there's anything that, obviously, 2 sets of ears listening for responses around the same questions, and one that's a national as well, can just hear things that just to ensure that we have the right or the perfect candidate. Induction, obviously, there's a process there to ensure that they're set up, and we'll assist in that induction process, and then maintaining. So one of the things that Staffberry prides itself on is our Staffberry Rewards program. So Staffberry Rewards is an internal rewards program that we've created and taken care of to ensure that effectiveness and longevity of your offshore assistant actually remains true. So every week they get allocated a certain amount of Staffberry rewards, or Staffberries we call them, and those Staffberries can be allocated at on your behalf, and you can request more or allocate accordingly. Those points, and those points in turn equate to things like maybe free internet for a month, or a new office chair, or maybe it's a camera or an iPad or something like that they can redeem for points. So that's a process or a program that we run to promote effectiveness and loyalty within the offshore assistance, obviously for the benefit of our clients. So it's a 4-step